got to start scripting these episodes.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. I'm Eric for President, and you know the drill, your one-stop shop for 5 VR stories you missed over the past couple of days. We'll talk about an Oculus Quest Boneworks kind of clone-ish type of game, a couple easy stories to go over, a couple more heavier topics. Please don't be a butthead about it down in the comments. I'm just gonna rant about that one. And a lot more to go over, including the giveaway for an Oculus Quest headset on this video. But first, as always, a few things in VR that are making me happy. This augmented reality rock climbing wall. As VR headsets themselves get smaller and smaller, I wonder what other ways reality will be amplified in the future. I'd really like to try this. Number 2, this son and dad playing VR together 10,000 kilometers apart. The power of VR has to bring people together, only strengthens our bonds, and this is the world that I want to live in. And finally, hate him or love him, Linus is still showing more people VR, and this stabilized Beat Saber play is definitely making me laugh. More exposure for VR is definitely good. Quick housekeeping item though before we get started. The dream is becoming more of a reality every day, and I did wake up this morning to see 30,000 subscribers on the channel, so thank you all very much for that support. It's nuts that this virtual reality is becoming more of a reality for me every day. I don't know what else I can do. I'm just gonna keep trying to provide VR news to you all, try to give as many headsets away as I can because I really do want as many people in VR as possible. But let's get into the VR news. Make sure to leave a like for this video, and cheers. Alright, so for the millionth time, Boneworks is not coming to the Oculus Quest, although there is a Boneworks-inspired game possibly coming to in the future, but there is a tech demo right now that's very Boneworks-ish that you can play at this exact time. Let's get into it. Physics Playground is a tech demo for an interaction system made in Unity, which is fully driven by rigid body physics. Objects have a simulated feeling of weight and maintain collision with other objects even when grabbed. Some of the tech presented in this demo may be used in other games that the developer is already working on. Already downloaded over 26,000 times, is this perfect? Absolutely not, but it's a sandbox demo that in reality should lose its fun after 20 to 30 minutes, but I found myself messing around with it for over an hour and still wanted to try a couple things out. Something Boneworks-esque is something that would fly off the digital store if made into a full game. Games like Blade and Sorcery, Boneworks, they're fun because it encourages experimentation. The amount of times in Boneworks I just threw a gun up in the air, did a 360, tried to catch it and headshot someone, had no reason other than my want to experiment and look like a badass doing it. And games like this on the Oculus Quest are a first step there. It's fun, and if you haven't tried it out, I recommend to go on SideQuest and try it out today. Let me know what you think about it though down in the comments. In our first heavier of the topics today, a Facebook researcher says that if next gen VR comes, it will be Facebook that's bringing it for sure. So let's go over the good of this, the bad of this, and the timeline we can expect. Let's jump into it. In an interview with The Information, Facebook's chief VR researcher Michael Abrash had this exact quote to say: "No company has invested at anywhere near the level we have. When the next generation of VR shows up, it will be because we did it. I see no other way this will happen." He goes even further with his conviction with the following: "I actually am remarkably impressed with Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook's strong commitment to and belief in VR. Everybody sees that AR will replace the phone someday. That seems like a given, but I think that VR will be as important as AR. AR can replace the phone, but VR can replace their personal computer." Now, to me, his comments, they do hold quite a bit of weight, and there's a lot of truth behind them, but to me, there's also quite a bit of arrogance behind them. But it is true that, basically Oculus does own 50% or so of the PC VR market, and they basically own all of the standalone market. So let's go over a lot of the positives that do come from this that I can see before getting into some of the negatives. Facebook has put a tremendous amount of money into VR, that's definitely true. $1 billion investment and a campus with lofty goals of just getting VR into as many people's hands as possible. Additionally, whether by ability or if they are truly selling the units at a loss, they seem to be the only major VR player interested or even able to provide cost-effective VR and keep moving the price as low as it is now. The most innovation at the quickest pace is exactly what Facebook has brought to VR so far, and we would not be where we are really without them. Of course, statements like this come with the bad as well, which is worthy for discussion. The speed in which Oculus moves forward with Facebook's backing makes it hard for the competition to keep up and be competitive. Microsoft, who has put in the most amount of money towards AR and VR next to Facebook, has lately written off VR as viable to them and their consumers. HTC has done nothing but disappeared with lackluster products from the scene and holding on due to the East not allowing the sale of Oculus. Sony seems to be the only one I cover the least, solely because of my lack of play with it, but I hope Sony has some tricks coming because I think they are the #1 competitor to Oculus and Facebook, driving what I hope is good innovation and competition for the consumer. All in all though, that leads to when is the next generation of VR coming? Well, I do want to make it clear that the next generation of VR isn't a bump in specs. It is not just a better Oculus Quest, it's not just a better Oculus Rift S, it's a dramatic shift in the capabilities of it, meaning full foveated rendering, eye tracking, dramatically increased field of view. It's most likely going to be wireless. It's going to have a lot of things that we just don't have now. That's the next gen VR. And I think that's going to be at least a 3 to 4 year cycle with headsets. They'd be fools to keep bringing out more and more Gen 2 headsets already. Will Gen 1 headsets still have a lot of life in my eyes? However, to see something like an Oculus Quest S or Oculus Quest Plus, well, that's pretty likely. I could see that happening easily in 2021 or 2022. The wait on the hump before next gen comes, but that's just my opinion of it. All this is really just biased opinions that I've picked up over time, but I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on them down in the comments. All right, let's cover the heaviest topic of this video, and one that I'm really riffing off the top of my head on and just my initial thoughts on it, but VR ethics and VR violence has come up in the news again with Respawn's Medal of Honor game coming next year. Don't be a butt in the comments about this, but let's talk about it honestly. Let's get into it. In a recent article by David J of Upload VR, they dive into Respawn Entertainment's worry of their upcoming VR shooter Medal of Honor, above and beyond in their wariness of realistic violence and how it's portrayed in their game. Medal of Honor will feature a lengthy single-player campaign spanning multiple acts and plenty of multiplayer options. Respawn had this to say about violence in VR and why they focused on keeping the art style semi-more light and unrealistic. As fidelity gets better and VR gets more immersive, you kind of feel like you're there. That translates to a, am I harming another more realistic human? That's something we're going to have to be very wary of. Respawn CEO Vincent Paula says in an interview with the LA Times, when you know the setting is life and death and it's a historical thing, while you may be causing harm to virtual humans, you're doing it for the good of other virtual humans. In that simulation, it's something that's valuable to the world. So let's unpack this, at least unpack it on how I'm thinking right now. And again, this is really all off the cuff of my head, but I'm gonna say this now to avoid this comment. No, I do not want a child sex slave torture simulator. That's ridiculous, although someone will most likely make it because people are horrible out there. No, I do not want it. And a comment like that down in the comments is akin to bringing up 9/11 and the Holocaust. The second you bring up any of those types of stories, you're basically ending any reasonable discussion or intellectual debate. So down in the comments, this is a heavy topic, but be reasonable. Remember, there are two sides to every story, and let's try to find a way that we can really talk about this to make some true change. There have been countless studies highlighting the minimal, if any, effect games have to incite violence and violent tendencies. Again, video games have no proven record to create violence, but I'm willing to discuss basically and entertain the discussion that as VR gets more and more real, is there a point in which we need to examine if the studies done with traditional gaming have these same results with VR gaming? And yes, I know VR gaming studies have been done, but they're very minimal in nature and definitely not as wide a scope as traditional gaming studies have been done. It's not something I have the answer to, but in my life, personal responsibility is really, really important to me. I know what triggers me and I know what doesn't. And my opinion is I hope VR immersion is not slowed down due to concerns it would make us more violent. And instead, this is left to the user to be personally responsible for what he or she lets their kids, friends, and family try. With that being said though, I'm 100% committed and hoping that more and more VR specific studies are done to see if there is an increase in violent tendencies due to VR games with more and more immersion. I think it's very important to keep looking into this, studying and seeing if there are effects, but I'm never personally going to be on board when a CEO or a company decides to take the first step with no proven studies behind it. I don't want VR immersion to slow down due to concerns that really may not be realistic in the future, as well as need to be accounted for personal responsibility of the actual user. At the end of the day, when virtual reality is indistinguishable from reality, it's not virtual reality anymore. At that point, it's a semi-reality or something at that point. But as long as virtual reality is virtual reality, there will always be a semi-disconnect in the mind of most users. That's my personal take on that. Again, it's a heated subject. There are two sides to every story, and this one is definitely sided. Some people are going to be very sensitive to the immersion of VR. Some people are going to be less sensitive and be able to distance themselves. That's up to the user, but I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this. Be civil to your fellow commenters down there. Remember, everyone has different points of view. I'd really like to see some good discussion on this, but let me know what you think down in the comments. And in a super quick story before we get into the Oculus Quest giveaway and a few choice words I have for everyone on that, let's talk about something going on with Oculus that they're aware of a problem and they're fixing it shortly. In a tweet by Oculus support on January 2nd, they stated this: "We are investigating reports of missing apps. We apologize for any inconvenience this may be causing." I've seen countless of you in the comments ask me about this, that it's happening to you, and it's happened to myself as well with things like Vader Immortal not being accessible anymore, and other games like The Climb just completely disappearing from my Play Store every now and then. But Oculus is working on it, don't fret, it's being worked on and you're not alone in that, and just wanted to pass that on to you for those still having those issues with the store. Alright boys and girls, giveaway time, and I know you might have skipped here, and that's why I put the timestamp here, because at least if you're going to listen to the winner only in this video, you hear me out on one thing. This channel was never about making money. It wasn't. It was about giving VR to the people. And the reason behind that, and this is gonna sound depressing, but it's true. For many people out there, virtual reality at times, or more of the time, can be better than reality for some. It sucks to say, but it's true. It's not the case for me. I love my reality. But virtual reality is an escape from a lot of things in reality that help me cope with certain things in life. And that's why VR is so important to me, and why it's important that I provide that as much as I can to you all, because it just has a tremendous amount of benefits. And the more support you guys give me, the more likes on a video that you give me, the more subscribers I get, the more shares I get, and the more Patreon support I get, it allows me to just give everything back. Right now, I can afford to do about a headset every month to give away out of my own personal bank account. As the channel gets bigger, I'd like to do 2, 3. This entire channel will be about getting VR to the people, and I hope that you understand that these giveaways are not for any other reason but to get people the opportunity to experience it. And people like Leonard Larsen, thank you. I want to shout you out on Patreon. You have done way more than the average Patreon supporter, dollar amount wise. I actually had to DM him to tell him to stop because it feels bad at a certain point when you donate that much. But thank you, Leonard, for what you do. People like you are allowing me to just keep giving more and more headsets to people every single month, and I really appreciate that. With that being said though, let's get into the winner. Through the random drawing on Gleam.io, as you see here in the background, Nick Sanders, you are the winner of this. Please reach out to me on Discord, Twitter, or through email, and I'm gonna shoot you an email as well. If you reach out to me pretty shortly, we'll be good and get this figured out. If you don't, I will pick another winner for the next episode. However, with that being said, as far as the winners moving forward, there will be more. I may be doing another announcement within a week, so stay tuned for this channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. That way I can keep on giving more headsets out in the future. With that being said though, everybody, this is the end of the episode. Please leave a like to support this video, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to never miss an upload. Join the spaceship on Patreon. As you know, everything gets reinvested back into the channel for that. And with that being said, thank you all for the 30,000 subscribers. Thank you all for the support you give me. It's been a tremendous year already, and I can't wait for the rest of it. I'll see you in the next one, VR Space Cowboys. Cheers.